Hello. We've lost many connections. Most importantly, I believe we've lost our connection to food. And as a result of that, we disconnected from our community and from the landscape. Foraging for wild food and saving seeds are both important ways to restore these connections. My name is Nikki Brighton. I'm a forager, writer, and slow food activist in the KwaZulu-Natal Midlands of South Africa. I've long been an admirer of Vandana Shiva, who is the keynote speaker of this conference. Her work seeks to restore the connections, to tell the stories of the seeds, and in the process of saving seeds, to save humanity and much other biodiversity. This is very inspiring. In my town and in other places in South Africa, I host regular weed walks. I use opportunities to surprise the taste buds and inspire people to rewild their lives, even if it's only just a little. I've observed that once they take a step, even a small one, they can't look back and they keep on moving forward to a more connected way of living. Many South Africans dismiss the weeds as poor people's foods, quite unaware of the nutritional value of these plants. There is an isiZulu saying, "Uyadla mbuya ngoti," which refers to the fact that you are so poor, you don't have anything at all, and you are reduced to relying on wild food like an animal. Paying attention to what grows freely without any inputs connects you to your neighborhood in a whole new way. And surely the plants beside us are offering the exact nutrition that we need if we inhabit the same place. Makes sense to me. For example, oranges and gooseberries are full of vitamin C just when we need them in winter. That's right now in South Africa. So humans and animals have co-evolved with landscapes, learning exactly where to find the food necessary for survival in any given season. And that means we've developed our palates in harmony with the landscape. Well-known examples are the Mediterranean diet or the Mexican Three Sisters, where the pumpkins, beans, and maize grow together and are eaten together and celebrated in many dishes. I think many species learn about flavors from their mother's milk. For most of our existence, we have eaten according to our needs. We've been influenced by our age, by the environment, and the season. So how is it possible that we've lost connection to the food we consume and the ability to eat for optimal health? Nowadays, it seems to me that we pay almost zero attention to the fact that food is medicine. I do believe that strong community is essential in order to achieve anything. So I've put a lot of effort into building one. In the area where I live, we have an entrenched system of barter and exchange, both of food, goods, seeds, services, and knowledge. We also have access to the very best food grown in respectful ways. Our Rico markets, which connect producers and consumers directly, are thriving. And there is a strong environmental ethic. So for many years already, we have been swapping seeds. And in this process, we're celebrating local adaptation and building resilience and growing our connections to one another. So foraging, seed saving connects you to the seasons and to your community. So while saving seed and working hard to grow food and to strengthen food security and food sovereignty is an admirable task, I'm beginning to think that perhaps it's a bit too much effort. Why don't we just eat the food that is freely available all around us? It certainly doesn't get any more local, seasonal, organic than the weeds. That's the food growing right now besides you. And weeds are well adapted to disturbed places. So wherever you find humans, you will find weeds too. So in urban spaces, wild plants and weeds are vital for pollinators and any wildlife that manages to carve out an existence besides humans. So even if you don't want to grow traditional veggies, I think it's very important to remember to leave space for other creatures too in your garden. And if you are out foraging, definitely do not harvest absolutely everything. Be mindful and make sure to leave plenty for other beings. So the pioneer weeds are part of the healing process. They are trying to return the soil to a good condition, so that for that reason alone, we should be keeping them in our spaces. So I'll just talk about a few of the wild seeds that I use that are easy to find, they're nutritious and medicinal in many cases. That's blackjack, amaranth, and chenopodium. And they are all cosmopolitan weeds, which means they are found right across the road. And I'm sure that everybody listening will know these plants. The first one I'll talk about is amaranthus. So here we call it mbuya or tsepe. Amaranth is a well-known and very popular vegetable here. It's even listed on the Slow Food Ark of Taste. So the seeds are extremely high in protein and rich in lysine, which is quite unusual for a plant food. So it is ideal to eat in combination with other grains like wheat, maize, or sorghum, which is also a South African grain. Sadly, and in South Africa, most of the crop grown here supplies health food shops and stores rather than alleviating the malnutrition and hunger, which is quite rampant. Nowadays, it's quite trendy to pop the seeds too, the tiny little amaranth seeds, and when they're popped, they're little fluffy, nutty popcorn, and those are used as garnishes. So it's a fun, modern way to use an ancient grain. The other seed from weeds that I use quite a lot is lamb's quarters, goosefoot, fat hen. It's got so many different names. Here we call it imbilikikani. This has such a good flavor in the fresh leaves. It's really one of my favorites. And the undeveloped seed head is delicious when it's steamed. It tastes quite a lot like broccoli. So this plant is related to quinoa, and there's masses of protein in the seeds. So if you can collect enough, it's lovely cooked as a grain, but I usually just have a handful which I add into soups. And then the other one I'll talk about is blackjack, which is upadolo here. Biden's pilosa is its botanical name. And blackjack is an anti-inflammatory and well known and often used for its anti-cancer properties. Many studies have linked it to dramatically reduced risk of heart disease, cholesterol, diabetes, high pressure, and other ailments. I mean, it really sounds like a bit of a miracle, this plant. In South Africa, the leaves are cooked as greens, and also they are used to make a tea. For high blood pressure, it is quite common to make an infusion with the blackjack seeds. So you just put a teaspoon into your cup, pour boiled water over it, and leave it to infuse for 10 minutes or so before you drink it. And also in Cape Town, there's an enterprising ice cream maker who focuses on indigenous flavors, and he uses blackjack seeds to infuse his ice cream, which I'm dying to taste one day. And I recently came across a chef who is flash frying the seeds just to use as a garnish on top of a dish, which I think is also a very clever use of what's right around us. So there is a growing trend for foraging for wild edibles, wild animals too, but we're going to focus on plants and weeds today. So the trend might be just what we need to set humans back on track, to rebuild our connections to place and flavor and to our food. And while you should obviously exercise restraint when you're harvesting indigenous edible food, with invasive weeds I've described, I think you can gather them in abundance. I mean, perhaps we're even helping to control their spread by eating them. So, to my mind, there can be little doubt that a respectful appreciation of earth a respectful appreciation of life on earth will guide us well as we find nourishment in the simplest ways of getting the energy of the sun directly into our bodies, and eating weeds is the way to do that. Thank you very much.